Yad Bidbarai. Hi. Hi, L'chaim L'bracha. Welcome to Chassidus, where we're learning about a daughter, a sister, and a mother. A daughter is a recipient, the metaphor, one who receives. A sister is an equal, a give and take. And a mother is the ultimate giver in a manner of self-sacrifice. So the recipient, the daughter, is metaphorically Torah mitzvahs. Mitzvahs. The act of doing a mitzvah. You receive the command from God. It's God's thing, if you will. And we're a recipient of it. We fulfill his wish, his command. Daughter. Sister, on the other hand, there's something equal. Well, that's the Torah that we learn. Because Torah, we need to own it. Daughter doesn't own anything, right? In the sense that it's all coming from the father and the mother. Right? Again, in the metaphor of it. Sister, there's an equality, so she owns something. Well, the Torah you learn, you have to own it, to internalize it, make it yours. And then there is mother, which is self-sacrifice, which is something that you can give that God doesn't have. Your light that you sacrifice. And that's what Baal Loitzcha is. Your light that we shine, Medrash says, shines upon God, the one who shines and creates the world. So with that, we have a greater question from the phrase that says, Roni v'simchi. The Haftorah of this week, Parshas in the Parsha Baal Loitzcha. The Haftorah, Roni v'simchi. Sing and be joyful. Basian, the daughter of Tzion. So we're speaking about a daughter here rather than seemingly the lower level. And why are we speaking about a lower level when it's speaking about the menorah, which is the light that shines, our light that shines, the light that we give, that we shine in the world, that we shine our light of when we illuminate, the darkness, which is self-sacrifice. So we have to understand the idea, daughter being mitzvahs, that there's something greater about it. And that's why the verse says, Rani v'simchi b'asiyai. So the Rebbe explains. BT, my daughter, which again is drawing down through Torah mitzvahs the light of God. In some manner is greater what we draw down than through that of sister and mother. How so? Because self-sacrifice, which is mother, and likewise the study of Torah, which we're engaged right now, which is sister, since they are spiritual service, it's a spiritual service, right? Study of Torah. You're not dealing with the physical world. You might talk about the physical world, if you're talking about, the laws, as we learn in Rambam, right? So you might be talking about the physical world, but it's a spiritual endeavor. Study Torah and likewise self-sacrifice. It's a spiritual endeavor, spiritual service. And as a result of being a spiritual service, that light of God that we draw as a result of it is somewhat pending on us. Pending on us, in other words, it's a reflection of us. Or it's a reflection of our service. It's pending on us, if that's the right word, what we draw down. We kind of precipitate the light, right? Arouse that to draw down through what's called the Srisata, precipitated. We're the one who create and precipitate, arouse that which will come down from heaven, right? The light of God. Of course, you get that in self-sacrifice because it's your sacrifice. And in your Torah study, in a sense, it's you, because who's the you of you? Your mind, right? Your mind and your feelings. But here, at least in your mind, well, which means when you study Torah, there has to be an understanding. So based on that, you draw down, right? And you're drawing down only based on what you precipitate, what you arouse from below. Right? What goes up must come down, so to speak. But it's what goes up that brings what comes down. On the other hand, the act of doing a mitzvah, the act, right? In other words, the act is not the spiritual nature of the mitzvah. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about the very act, right? The very act of putting on tefillin, the very act of taking a coin and putting it into a charity box, the very act of lighting Shabbos candles. Again, not the spiritual component, which is the kavana, the intent, the mindfulness. We're talking the very act is a mitzvah. Well, now, of course, you got to do the act. That goes without saying. But how much of you is there in the act, so to speak? When you're sacrificing, boy, are you there. When you're studying and learning and understanding, you're also there. If not, then you're not understanding. In the act, you can by the way, you can do it mindlessly. You know, you could. Of course, it's not the point here, is that you should do it mindlessly. On the contrary, the point is when you appreciate what will be said, so you'll do it with great enthusiasm and great vitality and intent, right? But not to take away from the essential nature of what we're talking about. The act is incomparable to anything that you solicit on high. When it's a spiritual service, so there's something comparable. What in your effort and your spiritual service of sacrifice and your spiritual service of study, engaging in Torah, of what you solicit on high, what you bring from your what you precipitate from within you and create to bring down. It's going to be something more comparable. But the act of the mitzvah, no. It's almost like it's coming straight from above. Yes, again, you got to do the act. But that's incomparable. That physical eye is incomparable to the notion of what you are eliciting from on high. So it's almost as if it's like totally being precipitated from on high, the divine light that you are drawing down. Therefore, in the act of the mitzvah, we actually draw down the core essence of God himself. Right? And this then is what it means, Rani Vitsimchi. First of all, in this Maimer, it's not picking up on the words Rani Vitsimchi, and another Maimer he does, and right, it means sing and be joyful. Like, sing and be joyful. You're learning Torah and you're understanding God's wisdom. That God's wisdom is, being becomes your food for the soul. So of course, hey, everybody likes good food and good drink. L'chaim, l'chaim. David's coffee. People are very joyful in that regard, right? But here, the song and joyfulness is in Bas Zion, right? Daughter of Zion, meaning daughter, the recipient, meaning in the mitzvah. That's what the reference is here, right? That's what we're talking about. So with this, then we can understand the rest of the verse. And it says, Ki hineni bo b'shechat b'seichech. Or, in other words, sing and be joyful, daughter of Zion, meaning the Jew who's doing the mitzvah, right? In the act of the mitzvah, not in the intent of the mitzvah. Now, in the act itself, to regard the act itself, how powerful it is that you're drawing down from the core essence of God. And that's what the verse says, Ki, or behold, hineni, behold. Bo, coming, I'm coming. So the Rebbe explains that in this word, hineni bo, that behold, I'm coming. There's two ideas here. One is that I'm coming, not being precipitated by you asked me to come. I'm coming because I decided to come, right? Now, of course, when a person says, I'm coming, it could be a response to something, right? An invitation. Well, there's no invitation here in the verse. So it means that God's coming on his own. Meaning it's not being precipitated by your Torah study that is eliciting on high, a divine, comparable light. Is God saying I'm coming on my own, not through, the requests from below or the solicitation from below, the arousal from below. No, bo, and also bo, I'm coming, meaning who's coming? Me, myself, and I, the core essence of God. Core essence of God. That's very powerful. So what we've seen here is that, which by the way is great novelty. So, usually we don't speak about the act of the mitzvah in such a fundamental core way that, greater than Torah, greater than even self-sacrifice. So the novelty over here is, no, there's something in the act of the mitzvah that's even greater. Because the nature of mitzvah is, it's God's thing, right? Um, so you're drawing down more essence of God beyond what you could elicit, what you could, you know, bring through your kind of engagement endeavor, as opposed to Torah, as opposed to self-sacrifice. Now we can add, so that's concerning. That's concerning the nature of the mitzvah and what you are drawing down through the mitzvah, right? Versus Torah, versus self-sacrifice. But also in reference to the person himself. So this is another chiddush, another novelty that the Rebbe is going to introduce over here. Can't overestimate how novel this is. Think about for a moment that, the way we probably learned novel, meaning novel that is not in Tanya that we learn, for example, not the perspective. It's a very nuanced perspective that the Rebbe is introducing. So now, so you can get that maybe towards the mitzvah. Again, the mitzvah is sort of God's thing. Torah has to be something that becomes my thing because I have to, right? In the nature of Torah, if you don't understand it, it doesn't filter through your mind and become part of you, then, hey, you don't have the mitzvah. Self-sacrifice goes even a step further. It not only filters through the mind and then the heart, you even rise beyond all of that, giving yourself over. Okay, that's the nature. Now, but so now he's going to say that even the person themselves is something greater in the person who does the mitzvah, not in the mitzvah itself and the nature of the mitzvah, but the person who does the mitzvah. There's something greater in the person who does the mitzvah over the person who studies Torah or even has self-sacrifice. That's normal. Why? How? How do we understand that? Well, it ties in with some of the idea that we were speaking of, but in the service of sister, of mother, right, there's some, in a refined way at least, right? We're talking about a very refined level of divine service over here. We're not talking about, a coarse kind of, very narcissistic kind of divine service. That's not at all what we're talking about. But yet, that being said, sister and mother kind of feel themselves in their service. I'm a mother, right? I'm a mother. Well, that's a something, right? So there's a feeling that you're a something. Sister, well, you're also something. I also got an opinion when the sisters get together, right? Daughter, as the old saying. And again, this is all metaphoric, so that's important to understand it on the metaphoric level, as they say about children. What? You can be seen but not heard from, right? You don't talk until you talk to, right? The old-fashioned way. I'm not justifying or suggesting that that's the way to do it. That's not the point at all. But that is, sisters get together. Hey, they're all talking. They're all sharing because there's a me there, right? That has what to share. A mother for sure. Daughter, you could be seen and heard. In other words, point bringing out that daughter is, there's no, in a sense, is not there. The person isn't there. They're just a recipient, right? Now, in the metaphor, that's is going to come out is an amazing thing because it shows on bittul, on self-effacement, as opposed to in the service of sister and mother, again, in a very refined manner, there is them there in their service. There is sort of, the exaltedness of their engagement in what they're doing in divine service. But think about it, right? Just think about it. The person who's self-sacrifice, they're adding to God. On some very refined level, person's going to sense that. Not sense that, oh, look how important I am, but sense how the value of what they're doing. And therefore, a sense of self-significance. I might say, whoa, that's really important. Oh, yes and no. Is a yes and no to everything. We're talking about an exalted level over here, so it's talking about a much more refined form of divine service. That daughter doesn't feel self-effacement. Right. And that comes through doing a mitzvah, which we'll have to explain tomorrow. To be continued. Yeah.